Oscar De La Hoya is an incredibly accomplished multi-weight champion, and in his prime, his style and prowess in the ring were undeniable. But the reason I'd like to talk to you about him today is because I feel he makes for terrific, easy to understand examples on the very best ways to score one-punch knockouts. Oscar was a boxer puncher with a pretty decent KO rate, and I'd like to talk about his knockouts and knockdowns because they provide very clear context for the 3 keys for setting up fight-ending shots. That's what we'll be discussing today. So without further ado, let's check out the Golden Boy. The first of the 3 keys is positioning. De La Hoya used simplistic but effective footwork to make sure his shots had a clear path to his target, and he made sure he was close enough to land with tremendous follow-through. He was not afraid to step in so deep that his rear foot nearly touched his opponent's lead foot. Notice here how a slight step forward and to the left gives his hook all the space it needs to create the angle necessary.
Vargas is more cautious than ever. More cautious than any round. Around 11 here, now he's cautious. There it is! There it is! Vargas is down!
And here, a crafty step and pivot lines up his right hand, even though his opponent is trying to circle away.
Trying to get him to engage in a stare out, but right hand by De La Hoya, and Gradall is down.
So he would step left to create a path for his hook, and he would step or pivot right to create a path for his cross. This is pretty basic stuff, but it's amazing how many people don't know it or even begin to think in these terms of positioning. Oscar is proof that utilizing positioning doesn't need to be complicated and involve all kinds of fancy footwork, as much as we all love fancy footwork. A quick double step in, or a fast pivot to the right at the correct time will do fine. Now, the Golden Boy didn't just know how to position himself so that he could land his punch. He also made sure he had enough room to create momentum, and he did this through his posture. Because position is great, but those shots still needed enough power behind them to score a knockdown or knockout. This is where posture comes in, the position of a boxer's upper body. There's a lot more to this than just choosing a narrow posture to close yourself off, or a low crouching posture to help ducking under punches. A good boxer's posture is fluid and dynamic, constantly changing. And Oscar, as a more than competent boxer, would change his posture, the position of his upper body, to load up on certain punches, facing his opponent and squaring up loaded up his powerful left hooks. As a general rule, the more space your hips have to rotate, the more potential you have to build momentum. Quick note, I'll be using momentum in similar terms interchangeably and somewhat incorrectly here and there since I'm trying to get the information across. But if you're a physics major or something, feel free to correct me in the comments. So likewise, turning sideways into a narrow posture would load up Oscar's right. Think of your posture as the power bar in a video game. The more you turn counterclockwise, the more your left hand power bar is loaded with potential force. And vice versa. The higher your hips, the more your power bar is loaded for building momentum by dropping down into your punch, etc. So working in head movement or throwing feints to load up your power bar in certain ways really helps with landing knockouts. In this clip, excellent follow through on his missed uppercut loads up a powerful, almost overhand-like left hook.
So far is De La Hoya.
Left hand by De La Hoya, down goes Ruelas.
Notice the opposing movements. Up and left, then right and down. Here a cross loads up his hook. And here a throwaway cross, almost a feint, loads up his left hook. Because the entire point was to get himself into position. Go watch clips of your favorite fighter after this video, and you'll notice they do this all the time, although probably in slightly different ways than De La Hoya. So we've covered having the correct angle to create a pathway for the punch, and we've talked about loading up the punch by having the correct posture. But having enough space for the punch to travel is also really important for building this momentum. Short punches can knock out competitors, but it's harder to do the shorter the distance the punch is traveling. Notice here how the Golden Boy frames with his lead arm to create the space necessary to land a punch. Lastly, you want a clear path to the target. You want your target to be open. Punches aren't nearly as impactful if the opponent's guard is in the way, obviously. The simplest way to remove the obstacle is to just knock it away with a punch. Intercepting counters are also great, because you know the arm the opponent is punching with isn't also defending at the same time, unless you're fighting someone like George Foreman. Countering while the opponent is punching can also add a lot of power to your punch, since they'll be moving into it. Think of a car running into a wall going 100 miles an hour, versus two cars running head-on into each other, each going 100 miles an hour. Anticipating and tracking the opponent's head movement is another very useful tool. You can also create a defensive reaction, then exploit it. Or you can bait a punch by offering a tempting target. Notice how Oscar leaves himself open to the jab, then turns away into his hook. Oscar's power punches, combined with the stellar jab, led him to momentous success. He was a fantastic boxer puncher. Today we covered his power punches, but you can check out my video on Riddick Bowe for a broader overview on the boxer puncher build. From the Modern Martial Artist, this has been David Christian, wishing you happy training.